The story begins right after the Great Trojan War finally comes to an end, a brutal war that lasted for many long years and kept the greatest warriors of Greece far away from their homes and families. Among those warriors is a man named Odysseus, the clever and fearless king of Ithaca. Unlike many other heroes who are known only for their strength, Odysseus was famous for something even more powerful: his intelligence and his ability to outthink his enemies. After the war ends, Odysseus and his loyal crew board their ships and begin the long journey back home. At first, the sea seems calm and the journey feels hopeful, but very quickly it becomes clear that the road home will be far more dangerous than anyone imagined. One day they land on a strange island that appears quiet and empty, but inside a massive cave they discover the home of a terrifying giant known as a Cyclops, a monster with only one eye in the middle of his forehead. This creature, named Polyphemus, turns out to be a savage monster who traps them inside his cave and begins eating Odysseus' men one by one. Instead of fighting the giant with brute force, Odysseus uses his mind. He offers the monster strong wine and tells him that his name is Nobody. When the Cyclops falls into a deep drunken sleep, Odysseus and his men sharpen a wooden stake, heat it in the fire, and drive it straight into the giant's eye, blinding him. The monster screams in agony and calls for help, but when the other giants ask who hurt him, he shouts that nobody did it, and they simply leave him alone. The next morning, Odysseus and his surviving men escape by hiding beneath the giant's sheep as they walk out of the cave. However, as they sail away, Odysseus proudly reveals his real name, and this moment of pride creates a terrible problem because the Cyclops is actually the son of the powerful sea god Poseidon. Furious that his son has been blinded, Poseidon curses Odysseus and swears that his journey home will be filled with suffering and endless obstacles. From that moment forward, the sea itself seems to turn against him. During their travels, they encounter many strange lands and terrifying dangers. On one island, they meet a powerful sorceress named Circe who uses magic to turn many of Odysseus' men into pigs, but Odysseus refuses to give up. With the help of a magical herb given to him by a god, he resists her spell and forces Circe to change his men back into humans. Eventually, Circe becomes less of an enemy and more of a guide, warning Odysseus about the dangers that still lie ahead. Following her advice, Odysseus even travels to the land of the dead to seek guidance from the spirit of a great prophet. There he meets the ghosts of fallen warriors and learns that his path home is still full of deadly trials. Soon afterward, his ship must pass between two horrifying sea monsters. On one side is Scylla, a six-headed beast that snatches sailors from the deck and devours them, and on the other side is Charybdis, a monstrous whirlpool that can swallow an entire ship. Odysseus is forced to choose the lesser of two evils, and while he manages to steer the ship past the whirlpool, several of his men are grabbed and eaten by Scylla. The losses weigh heavily on him, but the journey continues. Later they land on an island where sacred cattle belonging to the sun god graze peacefully. Odysseus warns his starving crew again and again that these animals must never be harmed, no matter how hungry they are. But after weeks without proper food, his men lose control and slaughter the cattle while Odysseus sleeps. The punishment comes quickly. The gods unleash a massive storm that destroys the ship completely. Lightning strikes the mast, the waves tear the vessel apart, and every single one of Odysseus' companions is swallowed by the sea. Odysseus becomes the lone survivor, drifting helplessly across the ocean for days until he eventually washes ashore on the island of a mysterious goddess named Calypso. She falls in love with him and keeps him there for many years, offering him immortality if he agrees to stay with her forever. Yet despite the comfort and beauty of the island, Odysseus never stops longing for his home, his kingdom of Ithaca, his loyal wife Penelope, and his son Telemachus, who was only a child when he left for war. After years pass, the gods finally decide that Odysseus has suffered enough and order Calypso to release him. He builds a raft and sets sail once again, facing storms and hardship until he finally reaches the shores of Ithaca at last. But even though he has reached home, His troubles are not over. During the many years of his absence, dozens of arrogant suitors have taken over his palace, believing that Odysseus must be dead. They eat his food, waste his wealth, and pressure Penelope to choose one of them as her new husband. Odysseus secretly enters his own palace disguised as a poor beggar so that no one will recognize him. He quietly studies the situation and eventually reunites with his now grown son Telemachus, who helps him prepare a plan. When the time is right, Odysseus reveals his true identity. What follows is a dramatic and intense confrontation. Using his legendary skill with the bow, he begins taking down the suitors one by one. With the help of his son and a few loyal servants, he fights fiercely until every single man who disrespected his home is defeated. Finally, after years of pain, struggle, and endless wandering, Odysseus stands victorious in his own palace again. At first, Penelope is cautious and unsure whether this man truly is her long-lost husband. But when Odysseus reveals a secret about their bed that only the two of them could possibly know, she realizes the truth. At last, the long and painful journey comes to an end, and Odysseus the warrior, who survived monsters, gods, storms, and betrayal, is finally reunited with his family and his kingdom, proving that courage, intelligence, and the desire to return home can overcome even the greatest challenges in the world.